Hey nerds! Some of you may be wondering what exactly this is, so basically, this is actually an extension of my Summoning Rates Suck video that I did a little while ago. Basically, I had a lot of cut content for this when I was delving into the math, trying to get a better idea of how things worked, and giving you a basic rundown of why summons work the way they do and how orbs work when they show up. However, this one was actually about some of the worst banners in history, and I felt originally that it dawdled on and did not really touch upon the subject, so I ended up cutting it out, and what would originally have been maybe a 20-minute video ended up becoming a 12-minute one due to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of interesting content, because this really shows you a bit of history about heroes and kind of gives you an idea of what has happened and why they probably won't be repeating these type of banners in the future. So, hope you guys enjoy, and let's move on to the cut content, shall we? Alright, see you in a bit. So, with all that we've gone over, when it comes to, say, I don't know, banners, what exactly would be the definition of a bad banner, a terrible banner, a banner that, really puts the odds against you when it comes to summoning? Not that it already doesn't do that, but, what would be putting it worse and worse in your perspective? Well, as I've said before, less is typically more. Usually you want to roll on banners that have 3 units instead of, say, 4. Or, in certain cases, ones that don't have a lot of the same color variations amongst the ranks of what is the focus. But if you were to compare to the past when it comes to Fire Emblem Heroes, what would be the worst possible banner that you can obtain? Well, we technically have already been there, and and by that I mean we've seen the the healer gauntlet. Remember when that was a thing, when clerics were doing battle and they were all colorless? Oh boy, that was a fun one. And you thought colorless hell wasn't a thing. Oh boy, just you wait. Oh man. But no, the actual worst banner that I can possibly think of comes in actual, 2 forms. These were launched about a month after Heroes began. And it seems like IS has kind of learned a lot from this because, just to give you an example, I will pull up the images right here real quick, okay? So as you can see here, this is a mixture of a lot of heroes from different games, and also on the other side, the same sort of deal. But these banners were the prominent features of, introducing both Reinhardt in one section, Klein in another, as well as Ninian, and of course, our good old-fashioned Jafar. Wow, that one on the right just kind of makes me sad just looking at it, but obviously, these banners were troublesome, to say the least, because I'm sure you can count the units. They both featured 6 units each. 6 units. And I'm sure because of this, and they possibly because, they learned from this, they've never done it before, because let's just look at the percentage rates. Let's start with the left side, with the banner featuring Reinhardt and Olwen, and all that fun stuff, okay? So let's just boop. As you can see here, on this side, these were the pull rates for just general pulls if you decided to try for them at a 3% chance. And this is not including the, multipliers that will go up from there. That still gives you a pretty terrible number. I mean, even blues, which, are probably the more common of the pulls here. Again, I'm saying common with a quotation marks. You can see that even then, Reinhardt and Olwen, or the Reinhardt, I'm sorry, I can't, I know the memes. I'm cool with the memes, guys, right? Anyways, the Reinhardt and Olwen, they are at a solid 2.5%, but it only gets worse from there. Because, of course, from there, again, these were the banners that introduced them all. You can see that Lachesis and Klein are at a solid 1.98% chance at pulling. Yeah, that's terrible, and we're not even about to dive into the even bigger problems on the right side banner that introduced our darling Ninian, and a lot of the other problems that were, of course, quite equivalent, or quite obvious, I should say, of a 6-person banner. So let's pull up the stats for this one. And as you can see here, they still technically have a little bit more of a problem. Granted, Ninian was the only featured blue focus, so she has a little bit higher chance than, say, I mean, when you compare it to Olwen and Reinhardt there. But typically, because of the massive amount of characters that are in the focus pool, you get the idea of what might pop up. Oh boy, just look at that colorless. Look at the colorless mesh up there. You get all of these units here that are just all colorless, and they all really just bog down a lot of it. And you can kind of see how colorless hell was kind of created here from these types of banners. Look at that. They added three units, and technically, I mean, I guess you can count Priscilla in there as well. 4 units that would eventually become huge colorless Hellbreakers, and I'm not counting Lachesis on the other side on that one, to the 5-star pool. All of them were added. All of them. And they were all added at a 1.86% chance rate at pulling them at 3%. You thought colorless hell was crazy before? Well, just imagine trying to pull for these characters and not knowing their stats before they were, you know, readily available and able to look at those stats. Yeah, it's a nightmare. An actual nightmare. You ever wanted to know what the worst possible banners were? Well, there you go. You get an idea. Not only that, but just look at the red units. Look at them. 1.56% chance for Soniki and Eldigan, and 1.61 for Carol Burnett. Good old Carol Burnett. That essentially gives you an idea of where the worst types of banners could have been, and what the worst ones were. I'm not talking about from characters, but I'm talking from general pull rates. And of course, you'll notice that they have never done the 6-person banner ever again. Probably because of a mixture of many things. One, the whole, oh, we really don't need to be pumping out these many units in this amount of time, obviously. The second thing is, of course, they probably realized that maybe, you know, just cramping all of these units into one banner is not the best idea. You kind of see that later on, because eventually we got Elm and Celica's army, and they were 6 units entirely, but they were split into 2 banners, so you got the option to kind of choose and pick which one you wanted. So that was a lot better, and IS has obviously learned a lot from the worst types of banners that you could possibly get. But this right here was a monstrosity that I never want to experience again. And that was why that banner there just gives me the creeps.